Yes.
Did you see? I sent you a movie.
Yeah, I watched it.
Did you watch
finally.
that?
Yeah,
What you
yeah,
thought
yeah,
about
yeah.
it? Because there's a scene when he's outside and his mother's calling him from out the window.
Yeah, yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
like, I heard Joel tell that story before. Like, is that a Bronx thing?
No,
or
yeah.
I'm like, did Joel write on this? Right on this script. What you thought about the movie?
I actually liked it, and I appreciated the fact. And I guess for anybody, are we recording right now?
We've been
I
recording
don't
this all the
even
time.
Yeah, did you?
What is it?
Did you stop?
What is it? Vampires versus the Bronx,
Vampires
right?
versus the Bronx.
Bronx.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
amazing.
it was so good, and I mean, to see the representation of the community in that film, I thought was really cool. Like you had a dark skinned sister, you had the dark skinned older brother, you know what I'm saying? You had the nerd kid who's probably brown, probably like Southeast Asian or something. You had like the Hispanic dude. Like it looked and felt like the BX. And the fact that they shot in the BX, I think, was important. But yeah, that was real. Like my mom would just be posted up, bro. Like she would just be in the window, and we're talking 188th and Crescent Avenue, and then she would just be sitting there, like making sure I didn't cross the street. Like it was a real thing for her. Like if she saw me even thinking about it, like she'd be like, Joel, where you think you going? It's like it's embarrassing. Like I wasn't cool at all. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was fun. You know, and then it was good just to see the representation in the BX, you know?
Yeah. If anyone hasn't seen the movie, it's in context, it's modern day Bronx. And these vampires show up as real estate agents, and they're buying all the properties in the neighborhood, and then they're killing the owners, and then they're replacing the grocery stores with almond milk and quinoa products and things like that. So they're gentrifying it, but the vampires are white people, and
Taking over
they're taking over the Bronx.
Yeah.
And how it ends is the Bronx as a community shows up and defeats the vampires.
Why you spoiler
Yeah,
alert,
spoiling
man?
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, it's been out for a while. Yeah, you should
You
have.
say if you didn't see the movie and then you
No,
come on.
honestly, I'm different. Because when people ruin movies for me, I don't really care. I'm like, tell me what happened.
It depends on what the movie is for me. Like if it's a movie I've been anticipating that I just haven't gotten to yet, like I don't want to go on Twitter and like, granted, we've been watching Lovecraft Country consistently, but people were real quick to be like, "Oh, hey, tick dog." Like it just happened yesterday. Just
A minute ago.
put
like,
your
it's
phone
over.
down. Let me enjoy this moment. Like people need to relax.
Man, yeah. Speaking of community, where do you see the community heading with all that's happened this year? I asked this kind of worked out because the conversation we had prior to this, us sitting down, was that there are groups of Black people who feel like they don't relate to other groups of Black people, and what we're finding out is commonplaces amongst the world, Brazil, countries in Africa, is that there are Black people being oppressed in all different ways, in all different levels. And what we've seen in the last 24 plus hours now is there are some people celebrating, there are some people still very anxious, and there are some people who don't know what's next for them. But just like how are you two feeling about the last 24 hours specifically? We could get into all of 2020 in a minute, but how are y'all feeling in the last 24 hours?
You can go.
I know you. I'm assuming that you're not super big political conspiracy theorist type, but you do have two daughters.
I do.
Who might grow up in this country,
Yeah.
maybe just who will grow up in this country, and politics do play, in a sense, its own part in the experiences they'll have.
Absolutely, for sure. And I think, which is why I wouldn't call myself heavily involved in the political process, but I would say that I'm knowledgeable. And I think part of what I'm concerned about with the community is the divisions. And I think there's a lot of anti-white supremacist talk, which we need to have, but I don't think we're having enough conversations about the lack of real healing that needs to happen within the community to heal anti-blackness, and specifically anti-blackness, not just centered around colorism, because that is a heavily in incredibly important conversation, but anti-blackness with regards to misogyny, with regards to how we identify and utilize gender roles as weapons, the way we just I think the conversation you and I were having via voice note of like the lack of human decency for each other, and not on some like black on black crime. I'm not even talking about that, just the idea of like how we talk to each other. And I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole. But I was having a conversation with myself this morning, because like I walk in the mornings with Wes in the carrier, so I can like process. And one of the thoughts I was having was like, what is the difference between tone policing and a person who's just coming out of their face sideways, and like how do you make room? How do we create these things that essentially are very much, I think, steeped in elitism, privilege, and like intellectual conversations?
Can you give an example of tone policing?
Like if you and I are having a conversation about, let's just say, I don't know, like there's this election, and you're raising your voice at me, right? Because maybe you're impassioned, you know. And for me, this is a very specific situation. So I'm glad you asked me that. Like, it doesn't happen to me, but I'm something I've thought about. Like, you're passionate about this election, and so you're yelling at me, and I might say, "Yo, Rondell, like, I hear you, but I don't want you yelling at me like that." You would then go, "Why are you trying to tone police me? Like, I'm just expressing myself. Like, you're trying." And I could, but then in return, I could also be saying, like, my boundary, the boundary that I've been working out in therapy, is people yelling at me is a trigger for me. So then I need to let you know. So then who's right in this situation? And I think for me, unfortunately, what's happening in our conversations is that somebody has to be right. Like, we're trying to prove each other wrong so much. Like, you didn't vote, so what are you doing? Or I didn't vote, but you think your vote is where it stops, and you're not doing the work. And it's like, but we're both trying to get free. And like we're so focused on like the fourth and inches that we completely missing the end zone. Like, we're trying to get to a place together. Like, we're all shooting for the same thing. We're shooting differently, and so there seems to be friction, a lot of friction, I think. And I think this election is proving that within the community, which is troubling to me.
I read a tweet that I'm not even sure the parties involved or who. It doesn't really matter who they supported, but it was a long list of the ways in which people treated Trump. Like, it went to a place where people had a bunch of names for him, including me.
Same.
But then Joe Biden spoke to us healing the country and healing the nation, and someone was like, "Oh, now you want to heal?"
Oh, I think that was Megyn Kelly.
Now you want to heal, when he was a racist and blah 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 blah. And I'm, yeah. Now I want to heal.
Now is the time to heal, right?
Like, actually,
Yeah, I felt that way. I still do feel that way. The reason why I feel that way are because of these experiences and this reality. But yes, I would like to heal. Sometimes I think you tweeted something like this. Sometimes the healing might come after me addressing trauma. Sometimes it doesn't. I think that was the point you're making. But yeah, now I want to heal. Yeah, I was angry. I could justify my anger, rightfully so. Now I'm not doing it.
It's always time to heal.
Absolutely.
So
How about you?
you're asking me how I feel about this. It's a mix of feelings, all right? Because I'm immigrant, I'm Black woman. Most of my friends are Black. Now my partner is Black, and his family is Black. So I'm thinking, like, I'm a my mom yesterday. I was actually translating the whole speech on the phone, so I was like showing her what was going on and translating the speech, and she started to cry, and I was like,
Specifically, Vice President Kamala
yes,
Harris.
was the vice president's speech, and she started to cry, and I was like, "Why are you crying?" And she said, because you were there, you're my daughter, you're a Black woman, and I'm relieved. So, it's this feeling that I have right now, right? So I'm okay. There is still hope for us. I think that we start to react, right? I see, we had a conversation early today. A lot of people, immigrants, and Brazilian community, Spanish community, that they are citizen now and they still voting for Trump. What I didn't understand, but having the conversation is just that, no, I know that I'm immigrant, but I'm citizen, and now I'm in a better position, and this guy's working for a better. And I'm like, no, he's still telling you you don't belong to this place. He wants you to leave. So it's hard when you are in a country, because you got, doesn't matter the way you got here, no matter if you, doesn't matter if you are illegal here, if you are legal, you are here, you are part of this country, you are part of a community, you are here, right? So when you are here, you have to think what is best for whatever it's around you, right? What you have in your community, what you have that is gonna keep you going, right? And when you see that people actually took this guy from where he was at, and I will be able to actually walk in the street and feel that I'm a little bit more safe than I was before, because how many times I saw people saying that you don't belong to this place, or people telling my face like, oh, you're not even from here, go back to your country, or things like that. So if I'm complaining that the price of something is high right now, and we should, look at that and be more, okay, what do we need to do, who we need to vote, who we need to hold accountable about this, what is going on. And someone look at me and say, why are you complaining, you're not from here? I pay my taxes. Okay, I'm immigrant, but I pay my taxes. I'm in this country and living as much as you are. And because you have a president that allowed you to talk to me like that, you think that it's okay. No, it's not okay. All right. So now I'm feeling I finally can breathe. I finally can walk in these streets and buy whatever I want to buy, and working whatever I want to work, go to school, and feel safe, because I wasn't feeling safe at all. Not at all. I felt that I was complete. I didn't have any protection being here, even though here is not like, my country is way more violent than this country, and still I felt like maybe if I was home I wouldn't feel this way. So
what's happening at home and for you in Brazil, you've spoken to me that there's a big effect that what happens here affects politics and policies in your country.
Everything. We look up to you guys. So
No,
we do. We do. And that is the craziest part, right? Because you guys are the whole model for, and when I say you guys, you all
America.
are the whole model for the whole world. So everybody's looking up to you. So it is just, and when I say everybody, because even China, it's trying to be better than America. Doesn't matter where you are. You are just like, okay, what do I need to do to be better than that American or the country, or how can I get there? And that's why it's so complicated to get visa to come here. It's not that life here is easier. No way. You guys work way more than we do hours. Yeah, those hours are crazy. And New York is, twice as hard. And but why America is the dream country? Why we have this dream thing about America? Because everything happens here. Everybody's looking to this country. It is not just about economy, but it's about like the presence, and everything starts over here. Like, let's think about the Black movement, all right? So in Brazil now we are way farther than what we were before. When I came here, I was to say like we are 40 years behind the Black movement in America. Now that I've been here for only 5 years, I see that actually Black people in Brazil right now are doing such a good job that we are probably like 5 years or less behind, you know. So, but why? Because we saw the necessity of taking whatever guys already did over here, and instead of just starting from the beginning, okay, they did this already, let's continue, right? Let's go from here. So it is beautiful to see that, you know, protests over here actually help us to think about whatever is happening over there and start the protests over there. So George Floyd was killed over here, and in Brazil at the same time, like probably 2 weeks difference, but we got a kid killed over there. It was a guy, I think 12 years old, that the cops went inside of his house and killed him inside of his house. And then we also had like different cases in Brazil that nobody was really talking about. We have, you know, five teenagers that were celebrating the first job and first salary inside of their car in the middle of the community. And they just fired the car, and if I'm not mistaken, was 80 shots. So killed the guys inside of their cars. The guys weren't doing anything outside or pointing guns or, you know. So we have this everything happening over there, and we didn't really have, I believe we were tired and we didn't have how to protest and do something in Brazil. But then we saw what you guys, 13% of the population of a country was doing over here. And we were like, come on, we are 56% of a population of this country. We need to do something. So woke us up, you know. So was something that said, if they can do, we can do too. And we had protests over there at the same time. And this was beautiful to see. This was something that, you know, you see how influential it is. And we have a president over there that is
Donald Trump. That's
Donald Trump Jr.
yeah, I'm still immigrant, so I can't even say things. But the guy is not as, you know, he's a semi-Trump. He's not even as competent as Trump. Trust me, Trump sounds competent when you see that guy. So when you see that you have, but what is crazy also in my mind, you have 56% of the population Black, and you still have only white presidents, and you still have only this type of guy over there. And over there, the vote is mandatory. Here is official, right? And we still putting people like him in the power. So when I see that Trump is out, the feeling that I have is that people are going to wake up over there, and Bolsonaro is also going to be out. You know, it feels like, okay, I have a hope. So yesterday I saw a lot of posts saying like, okay, Trump is fired and now Bolsonaro is the next. So I saw a lot of Brazilian posting and connecting and saying, oh, they did, so we can do too, you know. So that's how everything, it's not even just fashion. Whatever Jordan starts here, it's going to be 5 minutes after it's going to be in Brazil, because we look for that. So it's nice to see that before was fashion and now politics as well. So movements and social movements are happening.
Yeah, that's it's interesting. As much as Black people have fought and protested and shown up to all the unjust that has been happening, it's almost scary to learn about the struggles of people across the world. And it's not solely an American thing. It's not solely an African American struggle. Like, this is happening in Nigeria, it's happening in Brazil, it's happening all over the country. And I'm extremely optimistic about more and more people showing up in spaces to do the work, to be progressive and healing and not being afraid to talk about where they came from. Like we were just talking about rebrands.
Mhm.
Like so many people just need to rebrand themselves and not just going from a drug dealer to a mogul, but just going from like a person quick to judge to
Mhm.
someone who's more open-minded,
Yeah.
a person with quick temper and patient to someone who's willing to ask a question why or ask themselves why. But it is, I can't help but think about the impact this world is having on people and how they'll raise their children and how and what energy they'll put into the world. And that, if I'm being honest, is worrisome. Because we could do the work all we want, but there's never been I'm actually lying. There it's interesting to live in a time now where one man could rile up so many people and have them act
Mhm.
in a savage or a violent manner. Like Trump was telling people to show up to ballots, they showed up to ballots, banging on the glass and things like that.
Mhm.
And I've been looking at times throughout history. Right, we had Martin and Malcolm, we had Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois, and I'm wondering where is the next, or who might be the next, or do we need a voice, one singular or a few singular voices to speak for the Black community for us to get on the same page?
Well, I mean, I think you bring up a good point though, man. Because I think of, when I think of Ferguson, when I think of Janetta Elsie, and I think of DeRay, I think of Brittany Packnett now, who shout out to Brittany. Uh, I think of folks who essentially were the face of Ferguson. You know what I'm saying? Even like an Ashley Yates, Brown Blaze, like Leslie Mack. There were folks who were doing the organizing work at that time who really, I think, were the face of the movement. Even when I look at what's happening now, unfortunately, it's been the faces of the movement are the people that we lose because of the lack of progress, right? So when you look at a George Floyd, when you look at the Sandra Bland, when you look at these individuals, their deaths become the rallying cry for us to decide to do something. For those who are not already organizing, right? So like a Sherelle Brown who's organizing in Georgia and other cities, like folks who like Zola Allen, like there's a lot of folks who are organizing outside of the election, right? Who are doing that work. I think part of what is going to have to happen, what I imagine, what I hope is that when I look at the work that Stacey Abrams did in Georgia, I think it's symptomatic of like how much effort is going to take in order for the Black population to feel like our collective voices actually have power in the ballot box, and part of that work is going to have to be all of us actually taking a more invested interest in politics, and learning and really being very intentional about it, right? And deciding that, okay, if I'm for abolition, why? If I'm for defunding the police, why? You're seeing even this post election, you're seeing a lot of folks who are now kind of up in arms and saying like we should never said defund the police because it caused a lot of confusion for some folks and for some counties and some districts, and of course it did, because there are a lot of folks who the police state is a $1 billion industry in America. You know what I'm saying? So across the US,
Multiple billions.
right? And so no one wants to give up power. And as much as we talk about race, we don't talk enough about race in conjunction with power and class. Like the idea that these things happen because people want power. And I think a lot of the times it just so happens that marginalized folks are at the butt end of that work. Like, but the oppressors oppress because they want power, because they want the ability to do more of the things that they continue to do because they can get away with it, and it affords them money, it affords them opportunities that they don't want us to have, which is why they try to suppress the vote. And so I think I don't necessarily know if we need like a person, you know what I'm saying? I think we've moved, I honestly do think we've moved beyond that. I don't think we'll ever have a person. I think similarly, when you look at Obama's candidacy, right? Like the work that they did, his campaign did at the time was revolutionary. Like the way that they brought Black Americans to the ballot box to vote for Yes We Can. Like it very similar to the opposite spectrum, I think, of what Trump has been able to do. Granted, Obama wasn't able to do that consistently. I think Obama like
It kind
still,
of died out after he got elected.
yeah,
Like,
and Obama's also a warmonger. Like he's no different than any other president, unfortunately. But
they're
like,
not ready for that.
yeah, you know what I'm saying. But like, and I love Obama, and I
Foreign
think
policy.
like his foreign policy was horrible. But I think, and I think what we have to do a better job of is recognizing that politicians are also humans. Like when I think about the Supreme Court and I think about the build out, like I look at the Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas isn't just voting his party; he's voting his ideals. He's a human being. Like why would he not? Like why would he not do that? Like is he exempt? Is he somehow an amazing human being who does not have emotions? Like he does. You know what I'm saying? He's also a rapist. But like the idea that he's voting based on that. Like when Ruth Ginsburg is voting, God bless the dead, when she's voting, she's not voting just her policies, she's actually voting her beliefs. And the more but part of that is recognizing that this system is in place. We have the power to change the system. I think, again, when I look at Stacey Abrams, I think that's a perfect case study of that. She's one person, but she's one person in one area. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot more of now. It's going to be the Stacey Abrams of the world alongside all the other folks, the Brittany Packnets of the world, like the folks who are showing up in the community day in and day out and doing the work, as opposed to just like one person. Because even when you bring it up, like I think of, as much as we tout MLK, we sometimes forget Ralph Abernathy, we forget Bayard Rustin, we forget the other folks, we forget the Ella Bakers of the world, the folks who, like you and I, like we all know, we're also doing the work, who was symbolic of the movement, but it was more than just one person, figurehead.
Right. There was a combined effort because I believe the people around him needed to commercialize and market
Absolutely.
a figure
Yeah.
of who he was. When I'm worried about some of those names you mentioned, Stacey Abrams, for example, is right. What if the way society works now? What if we find out she cheated on the test?
Yeah.
Like what if we
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
out she
Yeah.
got arrested for a misdemeanor?
Very good point.
You know,
It's a very good point.
people either it's media, it's the algorithm, or it's the community now, in which we need people to have a completely clean slate for them to still be valuable, and for us to still and it's specifically for Black people, because obviously you could be a white person
It doesn't matter. Grab them out of pussy.
and rape people, and
Yeah.
it doesn't really,
And people
matter.
will vote for you because
Mhm.
they will find reasons
Yeah. Oh,
to
it's-
excuse your behavior.
Yeah, it's just a thing people do.
They say it's a
No.
thing people do.
No, I've never done that in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, you saw what happened. You were saying about rape, and you saw what happened back in Brazil. I showed you this past week.
Yeah.
So this white guy, and it was a white girl as well, but this also made us think, what if was a Black woman, all right? But this white guy, he raped the girl, and few years ago, but they showed proof. All right, so they found everything that they need to prove that guy, and also video, okay, to prove that guy raped that girl. She was an influencer. She was a virgin at that time, so she was. They found her like in a very terrible condition with blood everywhere, of course. That proved that she was virgin. So I'm just saying details because then the trial, they put 5 men in the trial and herself, and what's just happening right now, and she was by herself in the trial, and the lawyers start to call her names and say, you did this was your fault, because look at your pictures, you were always like sex in your pictures. And this was like old white guy talking to a 20 years old girl, right? So you were always sexing your pictures, you look beautiful in your pictures, so this is your fault, you provoke that. And also they said that, like the way she posed and everything was a whole mess. And she started crying, and instead of the judge just tell her, or tell the guy, stop, look what you're doing or something, the judge told her that if she needs a break, he could give her a break. And she said, no, I just need respect. That's the only thing that I'm actually asking. And then the result was that he gave him a sentence of rape without intention. He created this in the whole middle of law to say that it was, in Portuguese, it means was assédio culposo, or
Seja culposo.
yeah, your Portuguese is getting better day after day. It's impressive. It's impressive. So was estupro culposo. That's what they said.
Juco culposo.
Yeah, you got
We
that
got
in the audio,
subtitles and
right?
subtitles
Okay.
pop up.
Yeah. Now your
Yeah.
Portuguese is amazing. It's better than my English, actually. So, well, rate without intention. Have you, like, how can you put
know.
together those two
Unintentionally rape
words?
somebody, and that is, I have this this fear of. I mean, that is a terrible. That's a terrible story, and I don't want to talk about these situations specifically as far as Tory and Meg, or the things Russell Simmons is accused of, and women are saying blatantly he did this, and who else? Joe Budden and his exes, is that there are even women
Mhm.
defending these men without any just creating these escapes for them, creating these excuses. And I'm just worried that these examples or these stories and things that are happening, one, women of victims of abuse and rape are seeing these things, and this creating even more of a reason for them to not speak up about their traumas, because
Exactly.
what's going to happen, the accused will just say, I'm crazy, I'm I'll take provocative pictures,
Yes.
or whatever, I'll do anything for money. And we're not dealing with these men or women, or these abusers
Mhm.
who don't respect people's body, don't know the difference between consensual and coerced, and that I'm very worried about. I have like, I don't know, like 5 nieces right now. I, don't know, I get a new niece every year. I just know, and I just know so many women I care about, and it'll be terrible to know that, society will need. I mean, I guess not even with video. Like, video is not enough. We need to see the bruises. We need to see. You need to go to the cops the next day or immediately after. You need to remember every single thing and be ready to speak about it. You can't try and be happy. You can't try and heal after. That's what I'm worried about with all these stories when I'm hearing about where people are getting abused and people are being literally raped
Mhm.
in certain cases, or
Literally.
shot at,
Yep.
and we find reasons to defend them. We find reasons that we find reasons to give grace to the abuser, and find holes in the stories of the abused.